Well, hello, and welcome to lesson 57 of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I'm Marcelo Lewin, Headless Creator, as always, right there. Get a hold of me, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Today, my guest presenter is back, Bogdan Satirko. He's Senior Solution Architect at Uniform, and we're going to go ahead and finish that content model we started in part one of an internal team page. So without further ado, let's get him in. Bogdan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcela. Happy to
How
be
you,
back.
I'm glad to have you back. How you doing today? You're in Berlin, right? Still in
Yes.
Berlin there. Yep.
Yes. Berlin, it's seems like a spring in Berlin, you know,
It seems like what?
like a spring again.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah, we're starting to get a little cold here. We went through a huge heat wave and now it's getting cold, which I prefer the cold over the heat wave. So,
Yeah.
before we get started, I always have short interviews with people, but if you want to learn more how Bogdan got into technology and all that, you can watch part one. In this one, we're going to get a little personal and tell me a hobby of yours.
Um, yeah, I think I have like a couple of hobbies in general, nothing like really big, but the one hobby or the one interest that I have from childhood is on cars.
Oh,
Probably not that popular nowadays, but I'm really into cars from childhood. Probably thanks to my brother who was also in the cars. He was collecting stickers
yeah.
from different magazines and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And uh, from childhood, I was looking at those stickers as well,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, getting into more into cars, and yeah, since childhood.
So it's funny you said it's not popular today, but I mean, at least in the States, I mean, there's tons of people that are either into classic cars or car enthusiasts, tons of podcasts and stuff. What is it that you're into with cars? Are you into the mechanics of it, the fixing them, or more enjoying the collecting them, or what is it?
Well, probably I would love to enjoy collecting them,
Right.
That's a very expensive hobby, I think. But in general, it's like more into the mechanic of cars and
Fix working on
in
them.
general, like the history of cars, how it was like different designs from um, different years, all that stuff. It's super interesting, And then when
Right.
you hear all the stories of different car manufacturers, how they built up, what they
Right.
are, like what was the background, who built those cars, like when you read those biographies of those people also, it's
Yeah.
just incredible.
It's incredible. I'm sure you watched this movie already, but Ford versus Ferrari. Have you watched that movie?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that was. Did you like it? That was a great movie, right?
yeah, agree.
I'm sure you definitely appreciate it. We were talking before a little bit about cars. It's not weird at all. I used to collect the car in the States here in the U.S. We had a magazine, or we have a magazine called Car and Driver, and I'm a kid of the 80s, and back then I was really into cars. So I have I think 20 years worth of magazines of from the 80s of Car and Driver that I still have somewhere in my garage, and it's wonderful to pull one once in a while and see what the Honda Civic of 1984 was like. Cars were so much simpler back then.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, and yeah, when you look at the histories, like you see how much effort, how much money and so on spent on making the car safer, more beautiful, and all the stuff. And you
Right.
see how the tendency is going. When it's car of the '60s, and then you see this like it's very how much effort is put on the design, and then you see the cars
Right.
of '90s or '80s, which is like maybe subjective, but pretty not the most beautiful cars with the square forms.
Wait, I'm getting offended here. I'm a kid of the 80s. No, I'm kidding. I'm
All
kidding. You're right. You're right. Especially like Toyotas and I mean of the 70s, 80s. Anyway, hey, we got to get started because I'm sure people are going like, wait, did I tune in to a podcast on cars or what here? So I'm going to let you get started. I know we're going to start with a quick review of part one, and then I'll jump in and it's all yours now, Bogdan.
Thank you, Marcella. So yeah, we're gonna start from a short review what we have achieved in part one. So as you remember, sorry, I need to zoom in more. So as you remember, last time we started with internal team page, and we took an example from Bamboo HR. platform where you have all the where you have the hierarchy of your page, where you have also your home page, where it shows your benefits, where it shows your vacation days, sick leaves, people who are out, people who just joined your company, and so on. So as well as we had a look at the people directory, where you could find some information about the person, so from which department the person, for where a person located, some contact details, email address, etc., and who the person reports to. So, and here what we achieved last time. So we have our person content type, where you have the person name, title, work location, which team person belongs to, right? Because there it's a reference that is that one person can belong to multiple teams. Then contact details of the person, and if you have a look at the contact details, as here we have a contact where you have internal title, and as you remember, we were discussing having internal titles is more for discoverability purpose, where you have a telephone of a person, where you have email address, and social and link to social network. So here we have with address, you have person location, where the country, city, and postal code and address by itself. So, and here you have also reports to, a person reports to, and then how many vacation days, and when person was hired, so with starting date. So maybe it makes sense to rename some things here as well. So, and then the image of the person, and the image we decided to have an image wrapper here, where you might have multiple images of a person. So image for portfolio, and maybe image for a blog post, or maybe it's not that official image, so different type of image that is will be not used as a for portfolio, but maybe for more relaxed things, like I don't know, like in a certain articles or maybe blog posts. As well as we have here a team content type with title, description, department, and manager of the team, and then department, where you have title, description, manager, and teams. And here we had a nice discussion about where you want to move, how you would like to design that, because it depends on your CMS, whether you want to have this bidirectional connection between team and department, or maybe you would like to have like a clear hierarchy that department and then belongs to multiple teams. So yeah, that's what we covered last time. And the interesting thing is that last time, after our live stream, I had a couple of conversations with some people, and got very good feedback. And one of the focus on the feedback was also on the naming conventions. And this is, like, I think, very important. Last time we mentioned that a couple of times, to find namings that are understandable and kind of acceptable for editorial and development teams. So everybody understands what you're talking about. Everybody understands what you're building here. So that brought me to an idea. So, for example, that we might change our image wrapper, make it a bit more generic, say and make it as a media wrapper. So that is not specified just on the image, because quite often you have on the team pages, you have some intro videos, or for HR pages, for example, quite often people are actually describing what is their role about, right? So maybe a video about the person might also make sense in the future. So we can just maybe call it then the media, and within the media you can have any media assets within this content type. So
real quick if you don't mind me jumping in.
Sure.
So on the media, one thing to also note is on some CMSs, right? You're allowed to extend the media types in their CMS. Others, you have to create a wrapper. And I think people also need to consider the authoring experience, because in some CMSs, when you create a new media entry, like here, this media entry, then you still have to create a new media upload that's like multiple clicks for a user. So
Yeah.
it's something to keep in mind. Not that this is absolutely wrong at all. This is how we do it 99% of the time. But keep in mind the authoring experience where you are having the author create a new entry for media, and then they have to then also create a new entry for the actual media itself. So that's multiple. And I know that working with authors, sometimes they would get confused. Like, well, wait, I just created a new media entry. Why am I creating another entry for the actual media now? But
Yeah, I totally get that. And I had this, I had this experience with a lot of customers. And I think last time we also discussed that editorial experience is one of the most important
yeah,
when you're creating a content model. So again, talk to your editorial team, come up with a solution together. Because that's absolutely correct. In some CMS, you need to create, like you need to have multiple clicks to achieve what you want, right?
right.
You need to create a media type, media entries, and an image and or add image as an entry for portfolio, add image as an entry for blog post, and then wrap it all together. Yeah, that's might be just too much work or too much unnecessary clicks for the editorial team.
Right. Yeah. Just one final thing on media wrappers. The positives of media wrappers is because you're attaching a media entry and not the actual media, you could always migrate media away from the headless CMS into a DAM by adding a field to that media entry, and then you never have to change anything anywhere else because they're pointing to the entry of this media content type, not the actual media, right? So that media could be stored wherever, and you can migrate it whenever without having to touch that entry. So that's a positive thing about wrappers. So like in life, right? There's positives and negatives of everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there are a lot of advantages. Like if you make any reformatting, if you would like, for example, to add here, you have a person, and we discussed like having a blog post, right? And person that has a blog post image, they are referencing to this media as well. But in the future, you might have some other pages as well, like multiple pages around. Uh, and those can just be linked to this single media entry,
Right.
right? And in case if you want to change an image, update an image, or if you want to just remove certain sector or category on your page, you can just do that without additional work on cleaning up images or additional work on adding or removing, medias from a specific from a specific category, from a specific part. You all have in media, right? And
Right.
that's something can be quite highly reusable.
Yep. Definitely. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, here we go. That's why putting this as a medium, and yeah. But as Marcel mentioned, uh, the key thing here is discussion, communication. So please, when you're building your content model, talk to your editorial team, come together, developers and editors, to make a decision. How would you like to design that? This is something like a kind of best practice, but best practices in content modeling is quite subjective, in my opinion. So yeah, we move forward then, and we did not cover everything here. So for example, for the person, let's maybe take some design, and we can go from, I need to unlock that. So, and then move it here. Yeah, so it's easier to see for everyone. So here we go on the person. So what we have not covered so far. So we have a person, we have a name, title, work location, team, and all the other fields. But the one thing that we have not covered is literally, we're talking about titles, and title might be, here we have Jessica Williams, who is HR administrator. In my case, for example, I'm a solution architect. But within the titles, you have also levels, right? And then those levels might be something that is assigned to a title. So I would imagine that we can have some kind of some kind of levels as well. Let's have a look at the levels, and then we can have title, and then maybe as a level, maybe some kind of an generic ID across multiple teams. So for the level, so the level is kind of understandable what type of the level it across multiple teams. So maybe some kind of level ID or something like that. I know I'm quite far from HR in general, so I don't know how it's actually in reality. Marcelo last time was pretending it to be as a HR specialist. So if you have comments on that,
I
please.
don't have any comments. I am not an HR person either, but we'll just pretend. Yes, that's very good. That's exactly how we do it in HR.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, and then for the titles, that's something that is again might be we might put that as a separate separate content type to reuse the titles across. Again, because it's something that is to one to multiple person might belong the same title. If you want like to change the title, certain title for entire department, then you don't need to go to each person and change this title across, right? Again, this is something that brings up to the level of being like very maybe generic and maybe sometimes too much reusability, but that might be an option. Right, so let's go ahead and then create something like a title, and then so maybe let's name it working title, because title content naming title, again, naming conventions, right? It's something that is not always straightforward. Working title, and then that might be so I don't know, the link to the title ID or something similar. So again, this is something that
maybe we could have a description as well.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, description. Oh, by the way, that's a good part also for levels, right? Why a certain level is certain level, literally. And then.
So in this case, how is level different than working title?
How is level is different from working title? So the level might be, in my opinion, that's just like, for
like
example,
senior
or middle. Like we always have like a senior solution architect, right?
Got it.
Or junior solution architect, or maybe from software engineering, right? The same. You have juniors, middle, senior, and then you have then you're moving forward and forward. So there's might be multiple titles. Those titles are relevant not just as single. Sorry, you have multiple levels, and those levels are relevant not just for a single title, but those levels are relevant for multiple titles. So the same titles might be in engineering, some titles similar titles might be in, for example,
yeah,
my case in solution architecture and so on.
Yep, cool.
So yeah, even though like working title, we have title description and title ID. I believe that the level might be assigned probably to a person and not directly to a title. And again, this is something that is we can come up in a discussion. We can assign a level to a working title, and then you have variations of working title with different levels, or you can assign a level to a person. I would assign a level to a person for now, not to have too many working titles across.
And then the other way to handle it would be where you just have the level as a field, and if they don't want to query it, let's say this is a good reason to like maybe say, hey, I want to query all persons that are of level equal senior. But
Yes.
if they never want to do that, you may put the level inside of working title itself, right? And they could just say level there. So
Yeah, exactly. So let's for now put it inside a person. And then we have, that means that we have title now as a reference. And we can put, as I said, level as a field, or we can put level as well as a reference. So that just depends on the need. So you can then get all the persons who are from a certain level. So yeah, this is something like what can be covered here. And this is maybe started, not literally clear what started, maybe hiring date be better for as a naming part. So yeah, this is something what we are working with titles. Moving forward, we covering titles. There is some vacation days as well. What we have here on the page, we can see benefits as well of Jessica, and I'm assuming that for a certain department, for a certain role in general for a company, quite often benefits are equal for everybody in the company, best case scenario, right? But it could be also the case that those are a bit different from department to department, or from it's definitely different from location to location, because when you work in different countries can provide with different benefits. So this is something that we can also just put. And I would assume right now that a benefits really connected to a location of a person. So, for example, vacation days, right? In general, might be by law in Germany. I believe it's 25 minimum, or 24 or 25. It's a minimum amount of vacation days in Germany, and you cannot like even offer less. In other countries, it's different. And then what company gives on top of that? It's depends on the company, as well as benefits. There are some blockers that company cannot give the same benefits across locations. So that's why we can have benefits and content type. And here we go with benefits title and benefit description. And here we go with I think that might be more than enough. So and that's something that, again, we can connect directly to a person here, or we can connect, as I described, that to a person's location, right? So if we know that for everybody within the company within this location will be the same benefits, we can just clearly connect a person to a location, because then we can just list here in the my benefits, get all benefits for this location. Right? And then we can then do it like that. All right. Maybe there's something more than title and description, but I think that's might be enough for that part.
one thing I would the other way to also a second way is to have a title location benefits, right? So if this title in this location has these benefits, they may do that. So that way you can just have sort of a join content type that can have the title, and then the title for this location, these are all the benefits for it, kind of thing. I mean, depending on how HR handles it, right? Because you may be a senior programmer in LA with different benefits than a senior programmer in, let's say, Berlin, maybe with different benefits, perhaps. Like you said, well, in Berlin you may get 25 days, in LA you may get whatever.
Okay, so you mean like, okay, so literally working title, then you have a location, and then you have benefits.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'd be more of a join table, right? Between, title, location. So senior manager in Berlin, these are the benefits. Senior manager in LA, these are the benefits. I mean, of course, it depends on how HR handles it, but I'm
Yes.
playing the HR advocate here. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is something that, and this is
but
something
this
that
is great too. We'll agree that this is how we're going to handle it in our HR department today. But there's multiple ways of looking
yeah,
at it.
absolutely. It fully depends on how you handle it in your company. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and then what else do we have here? Uh, we just like briefly covered also benefits. Um, we have also here requesting time off. We have company directories. This is something all can come from a person, from the department, from the levels. Um, Trainings and certification. That's something interesting because I believe this data will come from a third party, right, for the trainings, right? So we might connect in the Bumper, you might connect to Headless Creator, and depends on the categories, you are pulling in the data for this particular person. Okay, those trainings might be interesting, or this trainings might be interesting for you, or this certification you need to go through to be successful at your job, as an example, right? So we can definitely put a training a training part here, and I believe it's a part of the title, working title and level, and that's something interesting. This might be a joint table. So we have let's create a training now. Trainings that might be a title, and I believe that is like working title, trainings, and so this is something, again, this is something that can be done in multiple ways. We can, depends on the CMS that you're using. So for example, if your CMS supports some kind of a tagging functionality, as an example, it's not necessary that you are directly connecting your working title to a trainings. You might just use the tagging functionality for multiple trainings, right? That's something that is also possible. In other hands, you might have a list of working titles. If your CMS does not support tagging functionality or something similar, then you can just create a working titles, which might be multiple references type. So for specific training. Oh, here we go. But the thing is that, and then one more thing is a source.
Yeah, what I would do here is I would jump in and tell you as the HR person is, look, we have an LMS already. So what I would love to do here is somehow just track the course IDs in the LMS, right? That people, and then just have the LMS, because I don't want to rebuild all the LMS functionality into this.
Absolutely.
So here would be more of an integration point with our LMS versus.
That is what I mentioned is like when you can connect to this, for example, Headless Creator, and pulling courses from Headless Creator, right, and put it. Okay, those trainings might be relevant for you. That's why I'm putting just the title of it, working title, so the person that where it might be relevant, because again, that's something that I think might come from an HR, because every company might have different titles, right? Might have different sectors. So we can we can decide internally, okay, this training is relevant for these roles, and then the source might be just an LMS ID or something.
Yep. Definitely.
Maybe we can name it just as LMS ID.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
also,
And that could be one-to-many, right? Because we can have many LMS course IDs.
yes, for sure, 120. And then, so yeah. And then, yeah, and this is something that is, we can call trainings, and then it's, but here we go with trainings title, working title that are relevant. Again, that depends on your CMS. It could be just a tagging functionality that you assign different tags, might be easier, and then you have an also reference to your LMS. Yeah, and then yeah, I think this is something that we have covered so far. Well, we have also goals. We have also goals here that might be tracked as well, right? For a person. But this is again, I believe, will come from a third party, right? This is not something that is coming from directly from a CMS. We can put it as a again as a third party link. Where you would track your goals, like 15.5 or any other tool that your company might use. Okay. I think that the goals might be something that is important, because goals might be relevant for the entire team, might be relevant for a department, and might be relevant as individual goals. So those can be linked literally on every level, and can be tracked there. So yeah, that's where we're moving forward. So yeah, I believe that basically it what we are having on this page. Yeah, it's like okay.
Looks like we got quite a bit covered there.
Yeah, and we can put it back. I believe we have covered here on the. We can build already the hierarchy diagram like here, because we know levels, we know teams, we know departments, and we know roles, and we know who is manager of whom, right? So we know who people reports to. So that's using this data, we can already easily build a hierarchy with fetching right data. And this data is also already available with all the social network, social links, telephone number, emails, and etc. So yeah, the one thing is left here is literally build up connections between all of those. That's something that we can just do right now if you want to. So you can move here to levels, and then as well as trainings made. That's something that we can also make a link to trainings for this particular person. Again, that's something that depends on how you would like to do that. In case you can leave it also kind of independent, and then just pull up all trainings for this type of role and those levels. But you might also want just to assign trainings to a certain individual, right? So that's why trainings might be also a part here, as well as we mentioned already, goals. Goals may sit on multiple levels, and might be assigned on the individual level, team level, or even department level. So here we go with media. There we go, a team. Let me just okay. So wait a little bit. Right. Okay. So here we go with team. Contact details are moving to contact details. It's funny that Miro is not storing what I have chosen before, but yeah, doesn't matter. I think that should be fine. And then reports to, that might be just a person, again referencing. Then you have vacation days, not necessary it's reference, we can just keep it as what's the regular link, just a number, probably hiring date, just a date field, and then we have an image or of person, or we can use also a media one-to-one trainings, one-to-one reference. So yeah, here we go with, it seems like, yeah. Okay. Goals and then trainings. Okay. Then what we have here is we use teams here and we have departments. Let's move. And this is something like how when you're building your when you're building your content model, how is it then can look like quite with a lot of relations. You know, when quite often when I'm making content model reviews, a customer is reaching out and sending out their JSON outputs with their content model, I can see then all the connections, all the relations between between content types, and then coming up to the meeting with the customers, showing this up, this graph, how it looks like. Quite often, it's the first reaction is very interesting. Is like, whoa, because with all the connections, with all the hierarchy, with all the complexity, quite hard to get into it. And here we have quite a small page, quite a small. Yeah, it's not that big of a content model, but with all the relations, it's becoming also quite complex. So yeah, here we go. We're left with benefits, and for now we can connect it to location. But I agree with Marcela. The join table would be probably a better solution here. So yeah, this is how we look from a content model perspective. Yeah, I
It's
think
looking good. Yep,
yeah.
looks like we got it finished here. The only thing left over, obviously, would be for people then to move forward and talk about how do you place it on the page? Do we need to build a design content model? Keep it completely separate, right? Like for example, in here, you may have components that you build a design content model for the page, but that's beyond the scope of this. Here we have, and of course, like you said, you got feedback of different ways of doing it, and that's the thing with content modeling, right? At the end of the day, content modeling is as much a science as it is an art, right? And it's very subjective. There's many ways to do that. So Bogdan, thank you so much. That was great, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I want to have you back to do more.
Just wanted to mention that here we were very much focused on the actual, as you mentioned, on the actual content model, without taking into account anything about design, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, the next step would be something to put on top of that, whether it would be represented on the page or on the multiple channel delivery, and it's not necessary should be in the CMS, right? That should be all that could live also in other platforms like for example uniform.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's something that is next step.
Definitely keep the design out of the domain model. That's not where it belongs, because then you can take what Bogdan just built and deliver it any channel, whether it has a display or not, like an IoT device, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Well, Bogdan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. People want to get hold of you. Would it be that email right there, or is anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, I think the email is great. Thanks a lot for having me. I was like, it's a pleasure for me, and I hope it was useful.
It was totally useful and a pleasure for me as well. And I hope to have you back here. So thank you so much, Bogdan. And thank you to the rest of you for attending another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. Stay tuned for many more episodes coming up. Like I said, this was lesson 57. Man, that's a lot of lessons this year we've done. So stay tuned for more, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.